is the second part of the second presentation on respect. And it's also Shivaratri. So I want to read some nice references about Lord Shiva, written by our acharyas. Let's see if I can find it. There it is. These are from our Goswamis. We're going to start with Sanatana Goswami. There's very nice Sanskrit. O Lord of gods. I don't know who the translator is, but O Lord of gods, the supreme shelter of all beings, worshipped by the Siddhas and Vidyadharas, master of all living entities, I offer my obeisances unto you, O Shambhu. O all auspicious one, you bestow Krishna Bhakti. O carrier of Ganga and Brisha Bhadvaja, having a bull as your emblem, I bow to you, O protector of the universe. Sanatana Goswami. Jiva Goswami, shorter. Lord Shiva, who holds the moon on his head, long ago attained the nectar of devotion to Govinda. Rupa Goswami writes, I offer my respects to Lord Shiva, who is an ocean of mercy, the bestower of Krishna Bhakti, and the most peaceful personality. He is the Lord of all beings, and the wish-fulfilling tree for his devotees. Narottama Das Thakur. One who takes shelter of Lord Shiva and his pure devotion, such a person is my master, the beloved of Sri Radha. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. I offer my respects to Lord Shiva, who is always absorbed in the bliss of serving Sri Hari and delights all his devotees. He takes great pleasure in serving the lotus feet of Lord Gora. And finally, Raghunath Das Goswami. I take shelter of Shiva, who is known as Shiva Manjari in Vrindavan, just like a bee attached to the lotus feet of Sri Radha. He renders service to her and offers everything to Lord Hari. So our Gaudiya Vaishnava Acharyas, they follow in the line of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who appreciate the very special position of Lord Shiva. So we're honoring him on his Shivaratri. We'll speak a little bit something this evening. So part 2 of offering respect and receiving blessings. The subtitle, The Cause of Success in All Spheres of Life. So we heard already a little bit, we're going to hear a little bit more about Indra's disrespect of Brihaspati, and his disrespect had everything to do with the lack of offering respect. Because, as he laments in his prayers after Brihaspati left the assembly, fie on all my opulence and wealth and position and honor and fame and reputation. Useless. It's been a burden of defamation of my spiritual master. And commentary says, how many times a day did Indra see his spiritual master? Frequently, because Brahaspati frequented the abode of Lord Indra, because in the abode of Lord Indra, many devas would also assemble, and so he would come. And every time, otherwise, he would offer respect, or say it positively. It's a policy or principle that when coming before the spiritual master comes before you, you offer obeisances. And when the spiritual master departs, you offer obeisances. However many times in a day that may happen, that's an etiquette. And he didn't observe the etiquette. So there he is, looking at a jewel, thinking about his opulence. And he's got a nice mirror by his side so he can look at himself. And there comes Brahaspati. And we saw, could I have the Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 7? Because I want to read what he says. This is one of the things that he says. If a person says that one who is situated on the exalted throne of a king should not stand up to show respect to another king or a brahmana, thank you, it is to be understood that he does not know the superior religious principles. So 2 verses later is verse 15. And here's what he says in verse 15. He's speaking before the whole assembly after Brahaspati left. With great frankness and without duplicity, I shall now bow my head to the lotus feet of Brahaspati, the spiritual master of the demigods, because he is in the mode of goodness. He is fully aware of all knowledge and is the best of the brahmanas. Now I shall touch his lotus feet and offer my obeisances unto him and try to satisfy him. So it's one of the lessons is, I'm sure Urmila discusses that, how do you make an apology? It's not just say, gee, I'm sorry. I mean, that's today. This morning. Oh, Jai, I'm feeling better than yesterday. Already I'm feeling better. Now even better than better. Okay. So in addition, some service, some besides, gee, I'm sorry. And then the person may say, no worries. You can leave it at that, but that's not proper. It's not sufficient. It's necessary, but not sufficient. And then, so bowing his head, very similar to what happened between Arjuna and Yudhishthira. Gee, I'm sorry. But, Krishna told me to do it, so that's, he didn't put the blame on Krishna. I take a vow. I know what you want. You want that Karna is dead. Before the end of the day, Karna is dead. My elder brother, O king. So fulfill, what does that person who is offended want? And then do something that assists that person who was offended to have their want fulfilled. It may not be in your power, but at least have that aspiration and do something in the direction, etc. Or if not, something big like killing Karna, something. So that's the matter of servant to master. What does the master want? That's what the servant wants. Whatever the master wants, that's what the servant wants, and that's what the servant does. It's a way beyond just saying, I'm sorry. apology is followed by an action. What's in the heart should come out. And so that's what Indra does. So there's the BBT painting. You've all seen this painting before. They have a nice frame around it too. There's Indra, puffed up by his opulence and being worshipped and so forth and so on, and not having proper regard for the best of the Brahmanas, in this case, his spiritual master of all the demigods. And some are offering their obeisances to Brihaspati, and some are not, and Indra is not. So there's material laws, the point here is there's also spiritual laws. And a spiritual law specific to disrespect or the failure to offer respect, there's consequences. Going way back to Kapila's teachings, the consequences is one will be stuck in rendering service where it appears that there's no progress, although I'm following all the procedures and principles and paraphernalia and this and that, and subjectively, I'm not feeling the happiness that is promised that comes from devotional service because it's not pure devotional service. And so it's a glimmer, and that's nice, but a glimmer isn't the full happiness that the soul is hankering for. And then if the soul is hankering for a full happiness and it's not happening, it increases the tendency for distraction. Looking here, looking there, looking for something else that will make me happy. In a world where there's no happiness, it doesn't happen. It's not a place of happiness. It's not going to be found here. And in otherworldly happiness, this is Priti Sundar, but the starting point of this whole presentation. Two things: happiness and mitigation of distress. One will not experience happiness or mitigation of distress completely unless and until Priti comes for the personality of Godhead. And there's obstacles. The coverings are the obstacles. We can say false ego, and then layers and layers and layers and layers, from the subtle to the more gross, to the more gross, to the more gross, and we're stifled. And here we are, practicing bhakti, trying to learn from Kapila Dev and all of our acharyas how to go beyond the stuck, the not making much progress position. It's not like a scare tactic, it's just reality. So it's a spiritual law. Disrespect or the lack of respect is like a material law of gravity. Objects fall because of material law. And 100% of the time, 100% of the time, no exceptions. It's a law. Respect. Even if in that respect it may seem, whatever it may seem, uncomfortable, unnatural, my mind is resisting because, and fill in the blank. But respect to whom? Not necessarily to a bad behavior or a bad speech, but respect to the person, the part and parcel of Krishna, who is worthy of respect, and the super soul within the heart. That's where respect goes, and then commensurate with the consciousness, respect. Up, going the upwards in this hierarchical picture of things, picture of evaluation of where everyone, the consciousness of an individual. A nice quote in this context is, sometimes there's exceptions, there's a rule, and there's exceptions to the rule. But the rule is the closer you know, the less you value. And you can take anything. Take marriage. Woo, woo, woo. Let's get married. Woo, woo, woo. Let's get married. And then live together. And then what happens? Wait a minute. That's not what I planned. I thought, but or serving the spiritual master. In Prabhupada's case, there are persons who are given. Traditionally, Prabhupada would travel with 2 or 3 people. One of them was Pradumna, the Sanskritist, and another was his secretary, which was a GBC member for 1 month on rotation, and another was his personal servant. His personal servant would always be with Prabhupada. And then different devotees were given that privilege. I know one who was an outstanding devotee, without naming names, and he didn't last too long. Because familiarity. And I don't want to say the whole thing, but I was personally present when this devotee was correcting Prabhupada. No, that. Prabhupada looked at him like, wow. And then he said what he said. And Prabhupada changed his statement because this other devotee was impertinent. So he just changed it. He didn't make an issue. It was a public situation. And that devotee fell. But a nice devotee. That's why he got that service. And then some devotees lasted a long time. 2 names, Harisori and Shrutikirti. And they have different personalities, for sure. But there's one thing they had in common. Profound respect. And did they have a chance to be really close and see Prabhupada up close? You bet. And then they wrote biographies about their life with Prabhupada and what those experiences were. And they're fantastic compositions. Shrutikirtis. What's the problem? Because Prabhupada would say that again and again. What is the problem? Then, an open-ended question, and people were silent. But the obstacle between me and pure devotional service. What is it? It's phantasmagoria. That's what it is. It's flimsy and ephemeral. That's what it is. What's the problem? What is the problem? And then Harisori's, a larger composition. They're different personalities. Anyway. And to this day, there's deep affection. They didn't fall prey to this. The closer you know, the less you value. Rather the opposite. The closer they knew, the more they valued. That's describing their heart. But the other is also a tendency. Now, Manu Samhita, as another reference. There's a person on the left bowing and offering respect. And then if one bows down and humbly serves those who are senior, and then there comes who is to be considered as falling in the category of senior. That's another topic we'll touch on. But these 4 things, according to Manu, the duration of life increases, wisdom increases, fame increases, and strength increases. And the opposite is true. The failure, it weakens all these 4. And it's just a law. It's a law. A spiritual law. And it's true. According to the laws of Manu. Violating that capacity to offer respect, which is what happened to... So what happened to Brihaspati is after that boo-boo, or the offense, and even he was still carrying the reaction of that offense. It's not to say that Brahaspati didn't forgive him, but he had consequences. The consequences were the demigods knew, the demons knew Brahaspati Indra has offended Brahaspati. He's weakened. Let's get him. So their attack increased and it became really messy. The demigods took over and then the battle to get the kingdom back, and quite a contrast from what Yudhisthira did before the beginning of the Kurukshetra. It's just the polar opposites. Then go up the scale that besides offering respect to others, offense to Guru. Here, Manu gives a very serious warning. You ready? There's 4 of them. If a disciple argues with his spiritual master, in his next life he'll become a donkey. Ooh. This devotee was arguing with Prabhupada in public. And Prabhupada's head moved back like, whoa. And he yielded. But because he yielded doesn't mean the person who argued with him didn't become a donkey. If a disciple criticizes his spiritual master, he'll become a dog. If a disciple enjoys the opulences of his guru, he'll become a worm in stool in his next life. That's not a nice life. If a disciple is jealous of his spiritual master, this is the envy topic, he'll become a moth in his next life. And there's the moth being attracted to the flame, and he flies into the flame, and that's the end of the moth. He burns in the fire by that envy of the spiritual master. Bad. So don't offend your guru. It's a bad program. The consequences are very severe. Here's a little example of that same principle. This is Karna. We all know Karna was who he was and his disposition and so forth and so on. When before the battle began, Kunti approached Karna. She knew the battle was about to begin. She went to Karna and pleaded with him, I want you to know that you're my firstborn son. You are my son. And I really would not like to see you, my son, be in battle against my other sons. So please join them. Mother's appeal. He rejected the idea severely. Where were you when everyone was degrading me? Everyone was treating me like this and like that. And there's one person that wasn't like that, and that was Duryodhana. He picked me up and he treated me like a Kshatriya instead of the son of a Shudra. And I'll never leave his side. He was very loyal. For his reason. For his reason. I'm ready for battle with my brothers. So one of the things that happened in Karna's life was he was not eligible to be in the school of Dronacharya, who was teaching military art, because of his birth. At least the perception of his birth being the son of a Shudra. So he wasn't given that military training. It was for Kshatriya boys. So he was angry. He had a number of angry things. That was one of them. So what did he do? He went to Parshuram. And who could be a better military instructor than Parshuram? But he lied to him. And he lied to him in part, one of his compasses was broken. He didn't trust Parshuram. He's going to Parshuram to get military training, but he didn't trust him. So he began by deception and cheating, because he knew that Parshuram had issues with Kshatriyas, but he had a favor towards Brahmanas because his father was a Brahmana and he was a Brahmana, and although he knew military skill. So he lied to Parshuram, saying that he was a Brahmana. Now, Parshuram isn't a slow. He's the personality of Godhead. So it's not like Parshuram didn't know, because he's the personality of Godhead. But he then accepted Karna as his student. Time passed, and he came to know that because at least the past time, he came to know that it was a lie. And so he cursed Karna. And this curse may apply to us. Act in a way that's not honest and transparent, and like this question that was being asked about sincerity, Subal's question about sincerity. Here's his curse. I taught you so much. This is, quoting directly, it's paraphrasing. You know many tricks. You know how to fight with weapons. You're brilliant with the bow. You know a lot of things. Throughout your life, you'll be able to use all these. But in the very moment when this knowledge is most important for you, you'll not be able to apply it. You'll not be able to access it and apply it. And that's what happened. By displeasing the teacher, he ended up being destroyed by his own pride, or failure to offer respect and instead lying. And so when the relationship with the spiritual master starts on the wrong footing, the result is disastrous. And it's even if the guru doesn't utter such a thing as Parshuram uttered, it's a law. There's consequences for deception. There's consequences for disrespect. There's the other side. There's consequences. There's benefits for proper respect. That's our topic, Vaishnava etiquette topic. It's the antidote for envy. But when envy or these other contaminations, pride, etc., Karna had big time pride, and that was another demise for him. But the person who we receive things from, if the starting point of a relationship is not right, then the rest will also be not right. So supposing we start, not on the right footing, let's put it in simple terms. We need some course correction measures within. Like, hit the reset button, step back and saying, what am I doing? And what's the purpose of this? So emotion may be there in the beginning, like some sense of affection and appreciation, etc., or like in a marriage or whatever the thing is, the relationship between one devotee and another devotee. But then the closeness may come and it may spoil that relationship, and it has everything to do with how it starts. Because there may be this thing that the other person, my spouse or my friend or my guru, has to be perfect. And if they're not perfect, then I don't respect them, or my respect is diminished because they're not perfect. We'll touch on that topic a little bit further. But so that person has a problem, and that person doesn't get the full benefit of that relationship, the guru-disciple relationship, in this case Karna, or military skill from the person who one learns military skill from, or anything. And it applies not only to guru, but it's anyone. So here's again something from Manu Samhita. It's nice. What did you touch on this, Urmila? When you make a boo-boo, make some sin. This is one of your topics, right? Yeah. Which one? Which class did you do it already? You did already. Today. I looked, but you don't know my mind. It's like so fuzzy. I saw the PDFs, but I didn't know the sequence. And I'm imperfect. Okay. 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 What if a disciple, somehow or other in the course of his contact or service to a spiritual master, offends or hurts the guru? What if he does something wrong? What should be done? It's discussed by our acharyas. The example is given, supposing in the course of digging a well, there are living entities in the earth that are killed unintentionally, but it may happen, some worms or insects or whatever. So what to do about that? Well, an answer is supplied. When you have the well, then you have the water. And then with the water, you wash the shovel. So the shovel then becomes clean. Similarly, one should continue to serve one's spiritual master even if one commits some offenses, because the knowledge that comes from his mouth is the very water that cleanses us. So go on hearing, certainly with repentance and appeal for forgiveness and all of those things, but go on, don't stop. Even if there are some imperfections on either side, we can still ultimately achieve success and real knowledge if we consciously avoid those offenses and respectfully continue to serve him. Jagai and Madhai, classic. When they realized, especially Madhai, because he's the one through the pot. The way that their description goes, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because Jagai appealed to his brother, don't throw another pot. You've already, look what you did, and this is offense. Even they were in a drunken state. He had that much of a sense. So when it came with the Sudarshan chakra, at least one description, Chaitanya Bhagavat description, is he was going to excuse Jagai, but not Madhai. And Madhai saw the chakra. I'm finished. When he appealed, it's the same. Appealed for forgiveness, Lord Chaitanya said, fall at his feet. So he did. Beg his forgiveness. He did. Lord Nityananda said, not only you're forgiven, but here's my garland. And if there's any piety that I performed in my life, it's yours. Similar to Ambarish and Durvasa Muni. So then Lord Chaitanya said, very well, you're forgiven. Now, two things. Never do this again, and render service to the Vaishnavas who you've offended. Starting with Nityananda and all the other Vaishnavas who you've offended. And that's what they did. The action was to show their remorse and their wish to have it otherwise. They built a ghat. And after building the ghat, they stood on either side of the ghat with palms folded. begging forgiveness from those Vaishnavas who were coming into the ghat for all their offenses, and whoever may have been offended, not offended, begging forgiveness and wanting to render that service. Continue remorse. Their life was saved. And so a little light went on, like Indra having offended Brahaspati. He realized his mistake and wanted to remedy or rectify the mistake. In case of Jagai and Madhai, it was squeaky clean. In the case of Indra, it wasn't yet quite squeaky clean. For whatever the reason, there was consequence for what he did. Here's another Mahabharata story from Vana Parva. The story is narrated about a sage, or at least a Brahmana, who wanted enlightenment. And Indra understood his desire for wanting enlightenment, so Indra advised him, look, just humbly serve a teacher. Nah, I want enlightenment, so I'm going to do austerity, and his austerities became very severe. It doesn't have a description in Mahabharata how it happened, but he got enlightenment, he got power at least. And although that power was superimposed on pride, the power became a weapon, and it destroyed both him and his family. There's some details in Mahabharata. So, it's similar to Karna and Parshuram. Knowledge without the school of humility, remember that tree with the root and the trunk and the humility and that which comes from that tree. When the humility is missing, one may gain something by this, that, or the other process, but by that is useless. In fact, more than useless, it can be destructive. Here's another example. Dronacharya again. Dronacharya had many students, and one of those students was his own son. When it came to teaching how the chakra, Sudarshan chakra, Brahmastra, the Brahmastra could be deployed, he taught his son how to release it, but not how to withdraw it. Because his son just wanted to destroy. That was Ashvatthama's spirit, so that's what Dronacharya gave him. In contrast, there's Arjuna. And Arjuna had a different mood of being the humble servant of his guru, his military guru, Dronacharya. So he was taught both how to release and to withdraw it. So being able to withdraw it, he could then offer protection when needed and destruction when needed. Very simple principle. This is an example of the application of the principle. So knowledge received wrongly can become pride. We touched on this. Those persons, academia as a classic, we've all been, most of us have, or if not all of us, have been to a university, and some university professors are humble, and many of them are not so humble. Some of them are really proud. And the one that's really proud, they destroy themselves. They have knowledge, but it destroys the user and fails to provide to the receiver of that knowledge that which is really beneficial. So beware of pride. Pride is such a thing that even something valuable becomes destroyed by pride. Something auspicious becomes destroyed by pride. It's not just do auspicious thing, become free from pride. Knowledge is not just information. I don't know what this chat GPT thing is, but some of you may know. One devotee fixed a problem by going to Chat GPT. I don't know what it is. So it's knowledge, but it's not. It's information, but information without this humility, it can be dangerous. So what's needed is not just theoretical knowledge, but the submission to a higher personality, not just a professor that has some knowledge and so you get some knowledge from the professor, but when there's genuine submission and a genuine qualified teacher. So that's where this theme that we started with is blessings can come. So here's this very same phrase that came, as you remember from yesterday, from Chanakya Pandit. The root of humility is serving superiors. Realize, and then from humility, then the blessings that come from that submission to qualified persons. And they may, commonly they'll impart knowledge because they're wise, experienced. A person conceives or realizes the soul Atma with the help of Vijnana, realized knowledge. So know yourself and know the Supreme. That's Chanakya Pandit's teachings. And one who knows the Supreme conquers the whole world. That's Chanakya Pandit's blessing or his teaching. Nice example. And it's the narration, I don't know if it happened. Did you circulate a document that's from Valmiki Ramayana? I'll send it to you, or remind me to send it to you, because what you're about to hear is not from Valmiki Ramayana. It's Ramcharitamanas from Tulsi. And so it's the Swayamvar of the daughter of Janaka. And Janaka is one of our 12 Mahajans. So he's like, he can't go much higher than one of the 12 Mahajans. And he has a daughter. And the daughter's name is Sita. And so he recognizes that Sita, being born the way that she was born from the earth, etc., she's a special personality. So her husband, the one who this young daughter of mine should marry, should be a very qualified person. So he contemplated and prayed, and he came up with this idea. There's an heirloom within our dynasty, the bow of Lord Shiva. And then there's some description of how that bow of Lord Shiva came into the dynasty. But it's this massive bow, so massive that it can't be lifted unless someone is very powerful. And so he made a public declaration. He invited all the kings and princes and people that wanted to have his daughter as a qualified wife. And the criterion was they had to lift the bow. Pretty simple. Lift the bow. 100 kings tried and failed. One after the next, 100. And so Janaka, this is taken directly from the internet, this picture. There's the assembly of kings. After almost everyone had tried, again, this is not Valmiki Ramayana, this is Ramcharitmanas. Janaka came on stage and began to shout, "Let no proud warrior king take offense when I say, there remains no true hero upon this earth. Abandon all your hopes to marry Sita. Return to your kingdoms. It seems it's not the will of the divine that Sita will be wed." Well, in that assembly, there were two personalities, and one of those two personalities didn't like it, Lakshman. Ramcharitmanas. Lakshman's eyes turned red with anger. He jumped up and began to speak very vigorously. You'd better be more careful with these expressions. There's no more heroes. My elder brother is with me. And if I need to deal with this bow, I'll break it into pieces right now. Ram's very proximate to him, remaining completely silent, completely unmoved by this exchange, detached. At that moment, Vishwamitra looked at Ram. He gave him a signal. He didn't say anything, just with his eyes and nodding his head. Only after his spiritual master gave him the indication did he respond. He fell at the feet of his guru, touched his feet, and said, "If you are blessing me, then I will do it." And then we know what happened after that, because in the Bhagavatam and it's in Valmiki Ramayana, and you know, to move it, to be brought before him, to try to lift it, Valmiki Ramayana says, a cart with so many men and so many wheels, and it's like this heavy thing. He not only lifted it and strung it, but broke it with a big sound that knocked everybody over because the sound was so loud. And there's Sita giving him the garland. Everyone else relied on their own strength, but Ram relied on the order and blessing of his guru. Lesson. So guess what? One of our favorite activities, we're going to have a breakout session. Yay! Those of you that weren't with us yesterday, you missed out, but we're going to do it again. So there's a discussion invitation. The root of respect from Chanakya Pandit is respect to seniors, ultimately to God, who is the personification of our life, of our spiritual masters and seniors. Everything starts from the relationship with the spiritual master. At least it should. If we have built this relationship correctly, then we'll be able to start communicating correctly with everyone else. If we have not built this relationship correctly, all attempts to build relationships with others will also end in failure. We must realize how we can rebuild our whole life from this principle, from the root. Learn to respect our spiritual masters and seniors and take him seriously. So this is the group discussion. There's 3 questions. I don't have to read them, you all read. And when you're ready, begin the discussion. We'll take a few minutes. Want me to read it? You're straining to see it. You're okay? You can see what it says on the screen? Okay. On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Time to end, everybody. We see on the screen a hard heart, at least an image of a hard heart. And it's lying on a field of mud that's also dried up, mud cakes. And sometimes the heart becomes like that. Without humility, gratitude, and respect, that's what happens. But the heart can soften with humility, gratitude, and respect. That's like the cure. Otherwise, it remains tough. In the hard heart, there will never be sublime feelings or the bhakti feelings, the feelings that we understand should come from bhakti. Therefore, regardless of whatever negative experiences we may have had, we still need to show willingness to offer respect. And then that's a principle. Then what might the respect look like? That's another topic. This is the only way we can bring about transformation of our hearts. This is Bhaktivinoda Thakur, but it's very similar to Chanakya Pandit. The Guru, his teaching is, this is Chaitanya Shikshamrita, that the Guru Tattva principle is embodied in the Guru. It starts from Nityananda or Balaram and down and down and down. Then Guru, not only Diksha Guru, but Shiksha Guru, but then Guru Tattva principle is invested in all these other categories. Our parents, those that nurtured us when we were totally dependent, our teachers, and that later in life, it is the same tree, there's the elders. So Chaitanya Shikshamrita, quote, "A person should follow the instructions of his parents and serve them as much as possible." Now there's qualifications. Supposing the parents are advising something that's sinful, for whatever the reason might be. We don't disrespect, we don't do something sinful. A person should serve those who protected him when he was a helpless child. One should also serve those who gave him knowledge, especially spiritual knowledge, and who gave him mantra. That's directly from Chaitanya Shikshamrita. Bhaktivinoda Thakur poses a humorous question. Who's senior? Then he's very explicit. Those are bigger than you. I have a humorous example. Brahmananda. Urmila, you know Brahmananda. He was big. He was big. This is Bhaktivinoda Thakur. You go take your question to him. Age, that's more understandable. And knowledge is even more understandable. Wisdom, not just information. A person must respect and serve all of them. Showing in graphics what he writes in Chaitanya Shikshamrita. Then comes this, what if there's defects? A person may be either seen as perfect, placed on a pedestal, or if he makes one small mistake, we immediately trample him in the mud. We demand perfection sometimes. Or We offer rejection, total rejection. We lack the nuance to respect imperfect seniors. An example, supposing somebody has glasses, supposing something, 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 supposing they're left-handed. I'm left-handed. Some great people that are left-handed. My parent did, it's a joke. My mother tried, and I was like persistent. I was left-handed. So, okay, so be it. And then I had to learn, you receive things with your right hand, you eat with your right hand, don't do things with your left hand. Some things, even you're left-handed. Okay. But I'm left-handed. Sometimes I'm asked to sign, Chaitanya Charitamrita or Bhagavatam. I got my left hand out and people look at me like, and it's hard because the binding of the book is on the left side and it interferes with my writing left hand. And so sometimes the writing is really sloppy. But what can you do when you're left-handed, I guess I could learn to write with my right hand. That's an option. Some persons are ambidextrous. That's a good solution. I have enough things to learn. I don't need just to learn how to sign my name with my right hand because. So here's a little graphic. Supposing parents say, can you go to the store and get some liquor? I don't know what this one's supposed to be. So we don't disrespect, but you don't necessarily comply with something that's sinful. Anecdotal. I remember when I became vegetarian, became a Hare Krishna guy. So I was vegetarian. And I came home to visit family. And they were like, vegetarian? Yeah, vegetarian. And you can't use the same pot that you used to cook meat in. So they went out and bought some new pots. And it's just like, my parents were okay. They were nice about the whole thing. There's some little stories about how they processed their son becoming a Hare Krishna guy. It worked out. So even if a senior gives a wrong instruction, we should not follow it, but should never be disrespectful because a senior always remains a senior. He then writes, a person should try to stop or protect seniors from wrong behavior or wrong instructions. How should this be done? Sweetly. Very sweet words, with humility, gently exhorting them at the right moment. Or be silent. I mentioned this already. If you can't say something nice, don't say anything at all. That's what my mother taught me. She was a good mother. I mean, she pretty much a good mother. That was a good one. So here's Durvasa Muni in the Sudarshan Chakra. So here's a nice example of how Vishnu gave a nice, pleasant instruction to Durvasa Muni, although Durvasa Muni had offended Ambarish. 9th Canto Bhagavatam. Vishnu speaks to Durvasa Muni, and he flew through the entire universe, the Sudarshan Chakra chasing him. He must have been really fast yogi, because Sudarshan Chakra isn't slow. I never figured that one out. But a whole year it took him to get there. But finally, he came before Vishnu. And then there's the essence of what he said, and there's the way he said what he said. You've come to the wrong person. If you want to ask forgiveness, go to Ambarish and ask forgiveness from him. But he doesn't say that. He says respectfully, Oh, great Brahmana, oh, great sage, oh, respected person, you are erring by coming to me. That's not exactly his words, but he said it very nicely. Same thing, moderena samaparet. He said, say it with proper respect. Prabhupada was a master at melting hearts. Here's a nice Brahmananda story. You're going to like it. I like it. I hope you'll like it. Brahmananda narrated the story of his initiation. And there's his mother. She came to the initiation ceremony. They lived in Connecticut or something like that, and she was a Jewish lady, and her son was Jewish son. And the bond between Jewish mother, Jewish son is like very strong. And there he was going in a different direction. And not only her son, but her second son, Gargmuni, they were initiated at the same time. Oh, poor mom, look at her. And then she's looking at Prabhupada and seeing all the fire and the rituals and like, my son has been misled, and that's the person that did it. He quit his university. His brother came for initiation too, and both sons were there. Mom sat down in the chair, looking really grim, looking as if she was going to torch everything into ashes by her stare. Lord Shiva. She was angry. She was angry. So what did Prabhupada, everyone noticed it. So Prabhupada said to Brahmananda, go bow to her first and receive her blessings to accept initiation. So Brahmananda did it. And he went and bowed down to his mother. How did his mother feel? What's this? His mother was seething with indignation. And so she spoke directly to Prabhupada. There's only one thing I don't understand. What's wrong with Judaism? Why do you dislike Judaism? To Prabhupada, but also to her sons. What's wrong? I like Judaism. Prabhupada looked at her again and said to Brahmananda, bow down again. He didn't respond to her question. This is Brahmananda's story. I wasn't there, but that's what he said happened. There she is at 26 Second Avenue, and a little storefront, and the story ends nice. He was teaching Brahmananda that somehow or other you need to receive a blessing from your mother. Now, I don't know how the rest of the story ended up, as she said, yes, my blessings, but I don't mean it, or I don't know what her response was. But in course of time, she became very appreciative of the transformation of her sons and very appreciative of Srila Prabhupada, although initially it wasn't like that at all. And during this period of time, it wasn't just Brahmananda and Gargamuni's mother, but there were a lot of parents. They were really upset because Prabhupada was like a vacuum cleaner, and he was just gathering up all their children. And there was a deprogrammer, Ted Patrick, that actively went to parents and, I'll get your son or daughter out of the Hare Krishna movement. Here's my fee. Deprogramming. Eyes rolled back in the head, mesmerized. He was a black guy. They accused Prabhupada of stealing their children. So here's Prabhupada receiving one of those fellows. Yet, almost without exception, they left happy. And how? He melted their hearts. Not by philosophy, just by respect. Words of respect. I mean, one of the things he said to Gargamuni's mother, Brahmananda and Gargamuni's mother, was, one can tell the quality of a tree by the fruit that comes from the tree. Your two sons are just wonderful. So therefore I can understand you're wonderful. It wasn't, it wasn't a falsity. It's a true statement. And she understood Prabhupada was appreciating her. So Similar things, different. Prabhupada was expert at what to say at the right time with the right person. By offering them compliments, treating them with genuine respect, and prasadam was nice. He understood the art of relationship. To change the person, you must melt their heart. So here's a little photograph of an example, long story short. One young lady became a Hare Krishna devotee, and her parents were, "You've stolen my daughter, and she was loyal to me and very affectionate to me, and now she's elsewhere," and rah, rah, rah. So in this case, the daughter, coached by Prabhupada, and so she came to her parents and a changed personality, and by speaking sweetly and respectfully and service mood and honoring, and a changed person. It wasn't like she was a bad young lady before, but she was noticeably transformed and respectful. And the parents later, they started chanting and started practicing. My parents didn't start chanting and practicing, but that's a nice example. Changing hearts is the example. A senior remains a senior for us. This is repeating something that Bhaktivinoda Thakur wrote. By insulting a senior, we insult God within them. We destroy the possibility of true spiritual relationships in our lives. When we show respect for seniors, we can actually change people's hearts. In fact, it's the only way to change people's hearts. Respect is a very powerful tool. I'm going quickly because of time. It's already a few minutes before 9, and I'm going to get the hook anyways. Where's our timekeeper? Where is she? Huh? Amrita Kelly just left. Ha ha ha. There she is. You've come to tell me to stop, right? What time do I have to stop? Given there's another class, what time do I tell me? Be honest. What time should I stop? 3 minutes? No. What'd she say? She's okay. I'm going to go quickly, out of respect. So, sometimes, dogs, cogs, camels, castles, sometimes devotees. There's a verse in the Bhagavatam that speaks like that. Sometimes devotees speak like that. So there's a devotee that at least used to speak like that. You're demons. You're not going to change hearts that way by calling them such names. Here's an example, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with Mother Sachi. It's a very nice painting. In Shantipur, after he had taken sannyas, and it was a trick by Nityananda, instead of going to Vrindavan, he went to Shantipur. And by way of a messenger, Sachi, come see your son after he's taken sannyas. So there she is crying. Tears came to her eyes. He said, I've lost my son, my beloved son. He's not here anymore. Lord Chaitanya spoke. I must have gone crazy. I mean, this isn't literally the translation from Chaitanya Charitamrita. I'm out of my mind. Only a madman can leave such a mother. There's no one better than you in the whole world. I owe you everything I have. I owe all credit to you. And if you say to me now, give up sannyas, live with me, I'll give up sannyas and live with you. No, son. If you give up sannyas, you will cover both your head and my head with shame. You have taken sannyas, remain a sannyasi, but live nearby, so I can sometimes receive news about you. Now, she's a cultured lady, and her response was the response of a cultured lady. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was offering all respect. And by offering respect, it melts hearts. The person who is offering the respect and the person unto whom the respect is offered. Nice example. I'm going to go quickly because you all know these stories. This is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu speaking with Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. And he very patiently heard Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya go on and on and on and on for 7 days with the explicit intention of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya to protect his sannyas when he's just 24 years old and very beautiful and very this and that. And he remained silent for 7 days. You know the story. He didn't interrupt. He didn't say, "What's this nonsense you're talking? It's gobbledygook." He listened respectfully, despite knowing the philosophy was flawed. He gave the scholar the dignity of being heard. And then, you know what happened. When Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya said, "You don't say anything. I don't know if you're understanding, not understanding." He said, "Oh, I understand Vedanta Sutra, but your explanations are you're clouding the meaning." "Oh, then you say." So he said. And Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was like a super scholar. He was able to understand what he said, although he had a different idea from the way he had been trained. And then Lord Chaitanya showed his Sadbhuj form, or depending on which biography you read, form of Radha and Krishna. So this is Lord Chaitanya sitting. He was invited by the Prakashananda Saraswati, the leader of so many Mayavad sannyasis, etc., etc., etc. So Lord Chaitanya came and sat down in the unclean place, the place where feet are washed. You know what that kind of place is like. It's, sloppy and unclean. What to speak of, a brahmana, what to speak of a sannyasi? You don't sit down in an unclean place. He sat down in that place. He was asked, "Why are you sitting where people wash their feet in some unclean place?" "No, no, I'm the youngest amongst you. I will sit here." And then he took that humble position, and then he showed his Brahman effulgence. Oh, wow. Because they're attracted to Brahman effulgence. Respect can melt people's hearts and change through that humility and respect. But remember how that section, that frozen heart on a mud surface, and there's ways to melt it. And then receiving blessings. I'm going to go quickly, but this is an important part of this procedure. Supposing somebody doesn't understand, a friend, a relative, or someone doesn't really understand what you're doing and why. Approach that, especially a senior person, and internally or externally bow before them and ask for their blessings. Watch what happens inside them and what happens inside you. If you manage to melt their hearts, you can see, you can experience. No, and maybe not, but that doesn't mean you depart from that position. So what's going on inside you? Subal, the sincerity question. Are you doing this as a gimmick or a tool to manipulate the other person? Or is there some sincerity in that bowing and showing of respect internally, externally? When a senior sees a humble and respectful attitude, he wants to give blessings. He wants to give something that he really has. It's quite natural. It's quite natural. And relationships can evolve also. Some initially may be harumph, like, Brahmananda's mother. And eventually evolving to a position where it's not like that. Barriers, all of that stuff can be transformed. And we can do, at least from our side, we can do something that permits it to happen. And if it doesn't happen, continue anyways, because it's the right thing to do. And maybe not, but maybe the heart will melt just by seeing, wow, look at their quality. Go and melt hearts. It's not a sign of weakness. It's not a sign of manipulation either. It's seeking blessings, and respect melts hearts. It has the power. That's like that. That's just the antidote for envy, is respect. And it can remove the envy from our heart and perhaps for them. So, we haven't done questions and answers. Hi, how about this one? Read what it says on the screen. When you go to have breakfast, you can do this at breakfast. I'll read it. Please share stories or personal experiences, moments when your words or someone else's words transformed another person's attitude, and how respect opened the door for blessings. Breakfast topic. And now, Q&A. Comments or questions? I'm expecting Nandimukhi's hand to go up first, but Subal beat her. Look at that.
It's very clear, it's wonderful to understand giving respect to elders and receiving blessings. And I can understand that the same principle is applied to equals and to juniors.
Yeah.
If you can tell us a little bit about, that offering respect to equals and juniors, it may not be seeking for blessings. If you can tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. I mean, it's just very simple. Mana and dana. You remember that discussion. It's right in Kapila's teachings. So the respect is mana. So while those are peers, supposing there's a relationship with a peer, be respectful. And seeking blessings, go ahead and seek blessings. I have this exam, or I have an opportunity to give a Bhagavatam class, and seek blessings. Depends on the circumstance and the relationship and everything. But it doesn't have to be cosmetic. It's not cosmetic. It's the blessings of, may I be successful. It's like Yudhisthira to Grandfather Bhishma and his other superiors. So those are superiors very clearly. But he's showing himself superior to his superiors by that humility. So, depends. But it's not transactional. It's a spiritual relationship. When it's right, it's not transactional. I give in charity because I'll know I'll get back by giving in charity. Abundance will come to me because I give in charity. It's true. But, then comes the sincerity question you were asking yesterday. Is it, calculating, or is it genuine without a material motive? So each of these things have its place depending upon time, place, circumstance, and individual and everything. Then how to understand what's appropriate in this and that and the other circumstance takes intelligence. Where does intelligence come from? It comes from Super Soul and from our teachers. They have wisdom. They can guide us. At least we can seek wisdom from those who are wise, and the blessings to act wisely when we're out on the playground or in life, to guide how we live our life under the blessings of seniors. So specifically seniors and spiritually seniors, and then going upwards in that hierarchy, because we had that little discussion. We're going to have some more. The some more is, yes, some more is on Monday evening. There's going to be another class, Krishna permitting. Okay, I'm just informing others. No, you speak. You got the microphone. Go for it.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Maharaj, I was a little hesitant to ask this question because I thought it's silly, but I thought the question is silly, but I thought I should ask.
Silly question, okay.
Yeah. Maharaj, sometimes we go to our spiritual seniors and we ask them for blessings, and out of humility they say that I'm not qualified. So how do we know that we are getting blessings?
You know what to do. It's not a silly question. If you're not qualified, who am I? So they stay up because you take the lower position. But from my experience, you're certainly qualified. And here's experience A, B, and C, and D, and E, and F, and in whatever it is that you have, please offer. You stay in that position and hold them in that, and they can say, if they can decline on the plea of I'm not qualified, it's okay. But you don't deviate from your position. You don't make them uncomfortable, but you hold them in the position that they deserve. And they're going to make some choices as you're making yours. You allow them to make their choices as you're making yours. And if you're not like nagging or persistent or obsessive, but if you genuine, it can melt their heart and they can then say something. And then if they choose not to, then you respect that also. Now I saw Ganga Narayan's hand up, so I want to give the microphone to Ganga Narayan.
So you talked about respect, and I wanted to also get your thoughts on how can we disagree respectfully, and even with a peer, of course, I think that's a little bit more easier than, let's say, I have a I disagree with somebody who is senior.
Superior. Yeah, okay.
And we are part of a congregation. We still have to move forward. Now, depending on how deeply I resonate with that issue, I might my feelings might be, or my emotions might be either as much elevated, or it could be a very trivial thing as like, okay, it could be a detail and I could look beyond it and move forward. But a lot of the issues come about when some of the values that we hold very dearly seems to be compromised. And I might disagree with it, but how do I still move forward respectfully?
Well, two answers, two-part answer. One-part answer. One, most important, you have shelter, don't depart from your place of shelter. And then what does that mean? You know, Guru Sadhu Shastra, that's my shelter. I have all faith in that. I'm not going to depart from that. No matter left, right, sideways, up and down, I'm not going to depart from that. So, because that's a place of shelter. It's safety, it's, you know, who I really am, and all those nice things. Don't depart from that. Then the second is, at the right time, in the right way, in the right circumstance, in the right words, consider what is the appropriate way given this person, this circumstance, etc., etc. Maybe privately, maybe. Is there a way that's appropriate? And until you get a clear idea, having clear shelter of your place of shelter, then you can offer the right time, the right circumstance, the right mood. This is one of the slides that comes later. This is a gift that's bestowed upon persons from Super Soul, who is the Chaita Guru, and one's Guru. One may get the intelligence, one may not. And if you don't know, then best to just hold it until there's the right time. There isn't, excuse me, there is an alternative. Go to someone who's senior to you and consider that senior to you person for advice, or maybe they can be the one who speaks to that person that needs to be spoken to. And they may say, no, it's not a good idea, the time isn't right, or something. So you just yield to that wisdom. I mean, that's commonly what I do anyways. You have a short menu of options to look at. And then you pause, reflect, go to the mode of goodness place and your place of shelter, and you consider what's the same brainstorming. Here's some options. I don't have to evaluate, just make the options, eliminate a few that are really obviously less desirable, and you have some left. Then you make a choice. One of those is just continue to wait till the right time comes, the right circumstance. And ultimately Krishna's in control anyways. That's a response to your question. I hope I understood your question correctly. Okay. Nandimukhi. Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Nandimukhi, she's got it. It's 1:15. You're okay. Okay. At some point, she's going to stand up and say, that's it. Go ahead.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. Just some reflections on Chanakya Pandita and his proposal. I first heard about Chanakya, I think it's probably from Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada used to, from time to time, quote Chanakya Shloka.
Yes.
In his lectures or
yes.
writings.
Mm-hmm.
And I also, later on, I know something additional about Chanakya from Srimad Bhagavatam. I think it's Canto 12. Canto 12, when Shukadeva Goswami was talking to Parikshit Maharaj about future kings, and Chanakya Pandit was mentioned to be the one who betrayed King Nanda and help the Mauryan dynasty come to power. And so she's mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam. And we just discussed his proposal today regarding respect. And I saw that very graphic picture you showed, how it begins from respect the elders,
Yes.
and you cultivate humility,
Yeah.
and then you get jnana, vijnana, and then you realize Atma,
Yeah.
and the supreme Atma. And but I just feel so pitiful, because from that point of Atma and the supreme Atma, he took a U-turn to now you can conquer the world, instead of going up to.
Yeah, I don't know the history, so I can't comment. I understand. I got the message, and I can't just explain it. I don't understand it either. There's two of us. There's probably a few more of us. I don't understand it.
It's just because that's how the proposal was at least presented. We were discussing about it today. So it ends up, his Niti proposal ends up with conquer the world, instead of like from, as a bhakti process, it goes up to devotional service. And I just feel like it's such a waste, kind of, in a sense, and a very unfortunate situation.
So here is what you're saying. One way of interpreting or processing is we don't trash Janaka Pandit because there's merit, abundant merit in what he writes. And then there may be some things that he says, go buy some liquor. We don't, you smile and we don't do that. But we don't trash the person or what he has to say.
Yes, we'll respect him.
Yeah. Prabhupada and our acharyas respect him.
Yes. I'm just contrasting this, like his proposal is like a ascending process.
I got it.
And instead of a
descending.
descending.
And then a U-turn. I got it.
Yeah. So appears like he's more about
material.
Yeah, not really respect in a way, but it's more like a utilitarianism.
How you get what you want. Artha Shastra, that's what it is.
Yeah.
But within that art, this discussion came after class privately. Nice devotee came and asking about this. So, how much stock do we put in Chanaka slokas? Well, we take guidance from our acharyas, which ones and which ones we don't. Okay. Next. That's it. Oh, come on.
We have a limited time.
Okay. In the back. Put your hands up. Amara, let's give to the senior Mataji here, and then you two can finish up afterwards. We'd end. It's way at the bottom.
Hare Krishna.
There we go.
Maharaj, thank you very much. It is like opening up my thought process to what is the contamination sitting in my own heart. I was thinking that I'm here because I definitely have envy in my heart. That's why I'm here. So I was thinking that can envy be dovetailed in Krishna's service, Guru's service?
No. That was a quick answer. We covered that topic. You weren't here yesterday. We covered that topic. There's no place.
I'll go back and hear, Maharaj.
Okay.
Just one clarification I had to seek. In Chaitanya Leela, we see more application of these principles that you mentioned. In Mahabharata, on contrast, like I was reading the description of the war and everything, where the Maharathis, who are like very topmost like warriors and devotees also, they are losing their they are just talking very angrily with each other and disrespecting, like in the scenario when Dronacharya's throat was cut by Drishtadyumna, although Dronacharya was just sitting in sort of samadhi. So at that time, the dialogue between Ashwathama and Drishtadyumna, and then Satyaki and Drishtadyumna, so they are so much rebuking each other that I felt that like how to see and understand these principles as per the circumstances.
Well, don't get involved in war. Something happens when there's war. People lose their compass. And they say things and do things that are not, not good examples. Pass the microphone up.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. I think in one of the slides you mentioned how disobedience is not license for disrespect.
Speak slowly. Which is what?
How disobedience is not license for disrespect.
Disobedience. Okay.
And I don't.
You understood that one, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I was wondering how you can how you can disobey someone respectfully. What would you do in a situation?
You smile. Go drink alcohol. I'm going to express something that Garuda Prabhu shared with me. He calls it the Indian head wobble. And it can mean 10 different things. You do one of those.
Good.
Garuda's really funny, boy. Something further?
No.
Okay, she gets the last. You have the last question. Look at this.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. I was wondering from yesterday's and today's class, given the descriptions of the practicality of respect, I noticed that they were very similar to humility.
Yes.
And like it was saying that I'm not better than the worm in the stool and like descriptions like this.
Yes.
And I was wondering, so what is the difference between humility and respect? Because we also see that we need both to like melt the heart.
One is the source and the other is the fruit of the source. Respect is the source. And the fruit of the source is humility. They go together. That is to say, without humility, how can I be respectful? But when one is respectful, it's that was interesting. When one is respectful, it nourishes humility. So they're close, but they're not the same. Where's Amrita Kelly? I'm just gonna okay. You have some nice announcements. You want the microphone?
Thank you so much, Guru Maharaj. I would like to sincerely offer my humble and sincere apologies to you and all the devotees. While I had the right intention to keep the time, I felt it's not appropriate.
You asked this question yesterday and I gave you the answer. You did the right thing. You have to do your duty.
Thank you.
Respectfully.
Thank you.
Okay.
I have two announcements. One is we are seeing how much Her Grace Urmila Mataji and Guru Maharaj is giving all of us. So to support their preaching efforts, if you're all inspired to offer some donation, you could either give directly to Maharaj and Mataji, or you can give it to, you can see me, we can give a collective offering. So that's one. The second is Gopal Hari Prabhu and Devi Murti Mataji. They signed up for the seminar. They wanted to be here and here personally, but Krishna and their little baby girl decided to have her arrival 3 weeks early. Surprise gift of Krishna on Valentine's Day for them. Her name is Subhadra. So they would like to seek blessings of Guru Maharaj and all the devotees, and they're sponsoring lunch prasadam today. Thank you so much, Guru Maharaj.
Remember the lunch, the breakfast prasadam assignment, the discussion.